What if the secret to feeding the world isn't more production? Instead, it is about connection. So a few months back, I was in Kenya, and I happened to be on top of a hill overlooking the Ivasoniro River. Now, that river is very important in Kenya because it sustains 4 million people, and it is a liquid lifeline for farmers and communities in Kenya. And the river sort of meanders through lush highland forests, through farm fields, to an open rangeland where livestock and wildlife roam. Now, the river and the landscape is stunning, but it is also fragile. After years of drought and erosion, the river is drying. Upstream, farmers are struggling to produce their crops, and downstream, communities are in a fight with wildlife for what little water remains. So as I stood on top of that hill, in that moment, I was reminded about my purpose, because it reaffirmed what I've always believed in, that when we lose connection, landscapes unravel. But when we restore connection, life in all its forms can regenerate. And that is the belief that has shaped what I call a foodscape, a food-producing landscape where nature and people thrive, where the way we produce food strengthens rather than strains the land, water, and soil that sustain us. Now, our current food system is a modern miracle. It's feeding more people than it has ever done before. But it is also broken. It is not nourishing our people the way we want it to, and it's not healing our planet. Food systems are responsible for 1/3 of greenhouse gas emissions, 70% of our freshwater withdrawal, and 80% of our species at risk are threatened by the way we produce food. So the problem is, the way we are producing food is undermining the very systems that make food possible. We are now seeing 3 interlinked crises: a need to nourish more than 8 billion people, a food system that extracts from nature, and a changing climate that is making farming even harder. But here is my hopeful truth. What we have broken, we can restore through reconnection and regeneration. Across the world, practices such as restoring soil health, rotational grazing, water stewardship are proving that it is possible to produce food in a way that it heals rather than harms. But for real change to happen, all these efforts need to be connected. The future of food is not about producing more, it's about reconnecting what we have broken. Connections with land, water, soil, river, connecting farmers to market, people and planet. And that's the purpose of the Foodscape approach, to connect and link actions within local systems and then connect local action to global impact. And it focuses on 3 levels of connection: on the farm, across the landscape, and within the larger system. Now let's take the first level of connection, which is on the farm, because farmers are on the front lines of the climate and biodiversity crisis, and they are central to the solution. In Kenya, I met small farmers who were diversifying their crops, practicing agroforestry, and managing for soil and water. And one such farmer is Margaret. So Margaret and her family, they operate a small vegetable farm in Kenya. And this farm is their only source of livelihood. And over the years, they noticed that the quality and the yields from their farm was going down. So Margaret decided that she was going to change the status quo. And she did 4 things. First, she decided to adopt higher quality certified seeds. Second, she tested the soil on her farm for nutrients and then augmented those missing nutrients. Third, she decided to do crop rotation to manage for pests and diseases. And lastly, she decided to switch to drip irrigation methods so she could do more precise irrigation of the diverse vegetables that she was growing. And within 2 seasons, her yields more than doubled. And of course, that meant that there was more income for her family. Now, this story is really inspiring in itself, but for me, what is really exciting is also what happens next. Because after seeing the results on her farm, Margaret joined a local farmers' hub. And now, as a leader of that hub, she has trained more than 200 farmers on these practices. So she is a farmer, and she is what we call an influencer, proving that regeneration spreads not through projects, but through people. Now, research has shown that when farmers move to nature-positive practices, they can stabilize yields and improve their profit. But farmers need time, because sometimes it takes 3 to 5 years for these changes to stick. And that is why support from philanthropy, governments, businesses are essential to support farmers during this transition. Now, let's take the second level of connection, which is connections across the wider landscapes, because farms don't exist in isolation. They're woven into our rivers, into our forests, into our communities, and whatever happens on the farm impacts a larger ecosystem. So in Kenya, in the Upper Tana region, businesses are now paying farmers for good land management, because healthy farms mean healthy rivers. Upstream, farmers are planting grass buffers and trees that are reducing nutrient runoff, holding the soil together, and that has resulted in better water quality, more reliable water supply, and a reduction in water treatment costs for companies and governments downstream in the city of Nairobi. So over the last 10 years, the results of reconnecting upstream and downstream communities has been striking. 16% reduction in sedimentation level, 18% more water flows in the Upper Tana River during dry season, and more than 1 million tons of CO2 mitigated and validated through carbon credits. This is not charity. It's an investment, it's a smart investment in resilience. Now let's take the third level of connection, which is within the larger system, because to really scale regeneration, we need to work with finance, policy, and markets so that what is good for nature must be good for the economy. We need to realign incentives. So in Kenya, banks are now developing credit programs that reward climate-smart farming. Tech companies are developing mobile tools that provide farming advice, financial services, and climate forecasts directly to a farmer. And by connecting these programs to government priorities, we ensure that we can scale faster, attract more investment, and most importantly, embed regeneration as part of a national policy and not just another isolated project. So systemic connections ensures these isolated projects don't become pilots, but lead to broad, bold transformation. Now, I've given a lot of examples today from Kenya, but this work is happening across the globe, from India to Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, US. And in all these places, it has been adapted to its own local culture, crops, climate, landscapes, because as we know, food production is incredibly context and place specific. And it has been estimated that by transitioning to regenerative agriculture, we can generate more than $1 trillion per year in economic opportunity. But as I said, regenerative agriculture is not just a set of practices. It is a mindset powered by connection. When we connect farmers to businesses that value good management, when we reconnect consumers to the origins of their food, when we connect finance and policy to the health of our ecosystems, everything changes. Because change at the scale of a foodscape cannot happen with one innovation or one organization. It happens when all of us, farmers, eaters, businesses, governments, we see ourselves as part of the same living system. So I encourage you to look at your next meal differently. Think about Margaret and the hands that grew your food, the soils that held it, and the rivers that nourished it. and ask yourself, what if every bite could reconnect a broken system? Because the future of food is not about growing more. It's about how we grow it, who we include, and the legacy we leave behind. Thank you.